Hi and welcome to the first video in creating and securing the Azure infrastructure. In this first video, we will create and secure a virtual machine (VM) on Azure. Now, a VM can be easily created on the Create a Virtual Machine interface of Azure portal. Some of these steps are not allowed in Zone 1, so I'll just select all the zones. These are just admin credentials. We'll be actually using them for Bastion access. But also we are going to allow Azure Active Directory users to be able to log in into the virtual machine. Here's a step to do that. We ensure Microsoft Enter ID is clicked. As you can see, our BAC is allowed through assignment of virtual machine administrative login. You can choose to enable backup as well, but for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to. I'll come back for more alerts, but these are some of the ways you can configure alerts on Azure. My biggest concern is CPU usage that will be greater than 80%, which is why that's the only place I'll be creating an alert for, and you can choose what email ID that alert will go to. So I'm going to use my test account for this purpose. Other than these options, there are a few more alerts that are interesting, and we'll be covering them. So there it is, our virtual machine is created. Now we'll start securing access to our virtual machine. So the first step would be to create a Bastion host. Now a Bastion host is a jump server through which a connection to our virtual machine can be made. Normally it is a good idea to have a different subnet for the Bastion host, so you would first jump on the Bastion host on a different subnet, and then only through the Bastion subnet will we be able to access the virtual machine. So it's an additional layer of protection, sort of acts like a DMZ. So there you see I've selected my Bastion subnet for deploying the Bastion host. There's an alternate way of doing this, and that would be to create another virtual machine in another subnet, and then using an RDP connection into it, and then from it you can have another RDP connection to your actual virtual machine. But Azure gives us the benefit of not going through all of that and just using sort of a shortcut for this sort of access control. Now we're going to try to connect through the Bastion host. So this is my virtual Azure Windows VM. It's a sample virtual machine, and there's a connect option under which there's Bastion host given. So I'm going to use my admin credentials here. So you see a new window altogether pops up, which allows me to connect through the Bastion to my virtual machine. There you go. To cross-verify, you can actually see my session over here. So if you're an IT admin, and you have multiple bastions, or multiple virtual machines that can be accessed through a single bastion, all your sessions will be logged here, and it will be easier for you to keep an eye on all the IT activity. The next step would be network security. So over here I'm going to try to limit the number of IPs that can connect to my virtual machine. And also I'm going to disable RDP, because I have a Bastion host in place, so I don't need a direct RDP connection anymore. So I've just made it into an HTTPS connection, which means the RDP port is disabled. The name there is still RDP. I've not bothered to change it, but as you can see the port is 443, so that is just HTTPS. Just to demonstrate that, I'm going to start my virtual machine again. So if the RDP disabling worked, then now connecting through an RDP file should not be something that I should be able to do. You see it's trying to connect through 3389, which I've disabled. So there you go, there's an error there. Now I'm also going to show you how to create a firewall. This is again a very basic way of doing things, but you can complicate it, or you can add details to it as your organization requires you to do. So I'm going to select the basic firewall SKU. So the firewall has been created. Now I'm just going to configure the policy. So it's a rule collection group on which I'll be adding firewall rules of either allow or deny. So instead of actually manually disabling the RDP connections for all your virtual machines, you could rather have just your one firewall rule with disabled RDP connection, and you can block the entire subnet in your destination. So this way you can deny all the RDP connections from anywhere in the world to your subnet. For this demonstration, however, I'm going to just add the most common 8.8.8.8 IP. So all my inherited rules have that one inherited rule from my parent policy. I've not added more rules here, but then when it's created you can add more rules there. The next step would be access control for virtual machines. So basically, I'm going to add more members here. Basically, you can assign yourself or a member of your team a virtual machine administrator login role, and then they should be able to log in using these credentials, using their own Azure AD credentials rather than having to give administrative credentials to every person.